Sometimes the most important realization is I did not fail, I adapted. And adaptation is not a flaw, it's evidence of resilience. You find a way to make it work. Hey, Flourish family. Welcome back to another episode of the Financial Flourish podcast. I'm your host, Michele Pemberton, a CPA and financial educator. Last episode, I spoke about looking at your money, not fixing it, not budgeting it, just looking. And today, I want to talk about what happens after you look. Because for a lot of women, that's when the spiral starts. You see the numbers, you notice the patterns, and immediately your mind jumps to what's wrong with me? Why do I keep doing this? Why can't I get it together? But today I want to slow that moment down because this episode is not about what your money is doing wrong, it's about what your life might be asking of you. Money is not just math, money is behavior, money is response. And for women especially, money is often carrying things that it was never meant to carry. So today we are not correcting behavior, we are listening for meaning. Most women are not just managing money, they are managing life. And money is the place where the weight of life shows up. Think about what women are often holding at the same time: careers and caregiving, households and emotional labor, relationships and expectations, faith, family, and financial responsibility, being the responsible one, being the reliable one. So money now becomes a place where all of this pressure lands. So when someone says, I don't know why I keep spending like this, the real question should be, what are you responding to? Your money is not misbehaving, your money is responding. Let's look at emotional spending. And we've spoken about this so many times, but it's so important in our handling of our finances. Emotional spending, as we've said in previous episode, is really about wanting more stuff. It's usually about needing a relief. And for women, the relief is often from things like mental exhaustion. You have decision fatigue, your constant responsibilities that you have, you're always thinking ahead. So when your brain is tired, convenience and small pleasures feel necessary. And so your money might be saying, I'm exhausted. What about being the emotional anchor? A lot of times women are the ones that everyone leans on. You're the one who has to keep things together. You're the one who cannot fall apart because everybody's depending on you. So spending becomes this private relief valve that you have. And so your money might be saying, I don't get support, I give it. The other thing that you might be trying to work around is loneliness. And I know I say loneliness, and you're automatically thinking, oh, this person is not married, this person don't have any children. But you can be married, you can be parenting, you can be leading, you can be serving, and still feel lonely because you feel so unseen. And so small purchases can feel like companionship for you. And this is acknowledgement for you. So your money might be saying, I want to feel cared for. What about chronic stress and anxiety? When life feels so unpredictable, spending is a place where you have a moment of control. You click buy, that's very decisive, and it ends the feeling, even for a short time, ends the feeling of being anxious and being stressed out. So your money might just be saying, I need certainty. So these are some of the ways that women find themselves responding to what's going on in their money emotionally. Now, a lot of people don't look at their bank accounts, and we've spoken about this before as well. And It's avoidance. And that's one of the most misunderstood money behaviors, believe it or not. Avoiding your account does not mean that you don't care. A lot of times it might mean I don't have the capacity to face another thing. So you don't want to be bothered with your bank account. Or you might be afraid of how you feel when you see your bank account numbers. Or you say, you know what, I don't trust myself to not spiral out of control. Or I already feel like I'm failing in too many places. I don't want to see what my bank account looks like because I don't want to see the failure in that area as well. So, what you're doing then is trying to protect yourself. You see avoidance as a means of protection. And what your money might be saying to you is that I'm overwhelmed. I'm not irresponsible, I'm just overwhelmed. I can't do one other thing. So, what you have to do to make sure that you're not shaming yourself, because as much as you feel overwhelmed, you can't shame yourself into safety. And, the American Psychological Association shows that income does not cause the biggest threat where money is concerned. It's avoidance, because the feeling of not knowing can be very detrimental to your life, not just your financial life, but every area of your life. Now, let's talk about repetition for a moment, because this is where a lot of women quietly lose confidence. When the same money issues keep showing up, like the same tight months, the same credit card balance, the same lack of savings, the same feeling of why can't I get ahead? The automatic conclusion is usually yourself. You're thinking, I'm not learning. I keep messing this up. I should know better by now. But I want to challenge you that repetition does not always mean failure, because very often repetition means the issue is doing a job. So money problems don't stick around because you're stubborn or you're careless, but they stick around because they're solving something in your life. And for many women, recurrent money issues are quietly holding things together. And it might be that they're absorbing instability in income. You don't have enough income, and so that's why you have high credit cards. They're buffering unpredictable expenses. You don't have that safety net, and so you have to use your cards or debt or whatever it is to cover those expenses. It's also covering gaps when life feels so uncertain. And it's also compensating for a lack of support. A lot of time women don't have the support, and so they have to compensate for that, and it helps you survive seasons where margin simply doesn't exist. So, what I'm saying, in other words, is that the money issue might not be the problem, it might be the coping mechanism. Let's look at an example. If debt keeps showing up, it might not be about overspending, it might be about smoothing life in unpredictable seasons. Debt becomes a thing that absorbs the shock when there is not enough cushion. If savings never seem to grow, it might not be because you don't value it. It might be because every dollar has been assigned to survival, to responsibility, or to other people. If your money always feels tight, even when you get an increase, it might not be poor management. It might be because increased income comes with increased pressure, comes with increased expectations or increased obligation. And this is where honesty really matters, because a lot of women have spent years being the stabilizer. They're the fallback plan. They're the responsible one. They're the one who figures it out. And so money problems often show up not because you're careless, but because you've been carrying more than your share for a long time. So instead of asking, why does this keep happening? Try to ask, what has this been helping me survive? That question changes everything. Because when you see the role the issue has been playing, you stop fighting yourself. You stop trying to discipline something that's actually been protecting you. And from there, real changes become possible. Not through shame, but through support and gentleness. Sometimes the most important realization is I did not fail, I adapted. And adaptation is not a flaw, it's evidence of resilience. You find a way to make it work. Now, money often becomes a scoreboard for things that are actually not about money, right? You might start asking yourself, am I doing enough? Am I being responsible? Am I failing my family? Am I trusting God enough? Am I behind compared to other women? That's a lot of things to put in your bank account. And these are things that don't even belong there. So when money feels heavy, it's often because it's carrying identity, worth, fear, not just numbers. So your money might be saying, this isn't about spending, this is about pressure. Now, one of the most helpful shifts you can make with money is learning to tell the difference between a pattern and a problem. Because not everything that repeats need to be fixed. And some things repeat because they're signals, not failures. A problem is something that continues despite having the capacity, the resources, and the support to change it. A pattern is something that shows up because of the season you're in, the pressure you're under, or the load that you're carrying. And the women are especially good at confusing patterns with problems because we are often thought that if something isn't improving, it must be our fault. But that's not always true. So let me look at some examples. If you're in a season of life where your income is unstable, where your expenses are unpredictable, or you're carrying responsibilities for other people, a tight month is not a problem, it's a pattern of survival. Now, if you're exhausted, you're emotionally stretched, or mentally overloaded, convenience spending isn't a problem, it's a pattern of self preservation. Or if you spent years prioritizing everyone else's needs, low savings might not be a problem, it might be a pattern of sacrifice. Problems usually require correction, patterns usually require context, and this is where people get stuck. They try to fix a pattern with discipline. So now they add rules, they restrict even harder, and they create more pressure, causing more problems. Because pressure doesn't solve patterns rooted in exhaustion, instability, or lack of support. Pressure only adds shame because then you don't feel like you're getting out of that cycle that's happening. So, this is a question that I wanted to ask yourself. If my life felt calmer or more supported right now, would this still be happening? If the answer is no, you're probably looking at a pattern, not a problem. And patterns don't need punishment, they need care. Another way to think about this is problems show up when something is broken, and patterns show up when something is working too hard. So your spending pattern might be working too hard to keep you afloat. Your avoidance pattern might be working too hard to protect your emotional capacity. Your financial tightness might be working too hard to absorb instability. When you see things this way, then you can change from how do I stop this to what would make this unnecessary. That's a much gentler question and it's more effective to deal with the issue. Because when the season changes, patterns often change naturally. When support increases, patterns soften. When pressure decreases, capacity grows. And that's when true sustainable financial change happens. Not because you forced it, but because your life allowed it. Now, it's important that as you listen to your money, as you listen to yourself, that you do not turn it into self attack because that's what especially women do a lot. So instead of saying, I shouldn't have done that, you can now say, that makes sense. Instead of saying, what's wrong with me, you can ask the question, what was I carrying? Instead of, I need to fix this now, you ask the question, what can support me? And this is reality. This is raising awareness and making sure that you understand what's going on with your situation and not beat up on yourself. Now, after you have done this self introspection and you stop beating up on yourself, then you have to say, okay, what am I going to do now? And one of the things that we tend to do a lot is that we think that we have to react right away. But sometimes the most important, the most powerful thing you can do is just understand yourself. Just realize that you need rest. You don't need more rules, you just need some rest, or you need support from someone. And that understanding alone can reduce the pressure in your life. It's not everything that needs a plan, some things just need compassion. Now, as I close, remember that financial freedom is not just about numbers. It's about emotional safety, it's about capacity, it's about honesty, it's about support, and it's about trust. Your money is not trying to shame you, it's responding to your life. And when you listen instead of fight, you move from control to wisdom. So this week, instead of asking, how do I fix my money? Ask, what is my money responding to in my life right now? And that's where real freedom begins. If this episode spoke to you and helped you to understand that your financial situation is not just about money, like us on Instagram at underscore financial flourish. Tell your friends who you know can definitely use this information. Connect with us on social media at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon. And of course, as I said earlier, on Instagram. We look forward to chatting with you this week. Until that time, ditch emotional spending. Stop avoiding your accounts. Differentiate patterns from problems. Don't engage in self attack. Talk to yourself gently. And through all of this, don't forget to flourish.